On the 29th of June, 2015, a woman was found brutally murdered in her home. Initially, police suspected a burglary gone wrong, but the investigation led officers to two men who then implicated someone incredibly close to the victim. Nestled in the sunny southwest of Florida, in the quaint town of Bonita Springs, lived Teresa and Mark Sievers, their lives intertwined with the laughter and joy of their two daughters, Josefina and Carmela. Teresa Ann Gray Tottingham, a native of Connecticut, had journeyed far from her New England roots. Her childhood was shaped by the bustling energy of a family of four siblings, two girls and two boys, a vibrant tapestry woven with the threads of shared experiences. However, when Teresa was just 1 month old, her father departed, leaving her mother to navigate the complexities of raising a family alone. This early experience undoubtedly left an indelible mark on Teresa, shaping the woman she would become. Teresa, by all accounts, was a vivacious and gregarious young woman, blessed with a sunny disposition and a sharp intellect. Friends flocked to her, and she excelled academically, ultimately graduating at the top of her class in high school. 1996 marked Teresa's graduation from medical school, after which she completed her residency at the University of Florida. Glowing reviews from colleagues consistently painted a picture of an exceptionally bright and charismatic physician. She garnered a reputation as a dedicated holistic therapist, practicing at a healing and restorative health center within the Estero Medical Center. In 2000, Teresa entered into matrimony with Kenny Cousins, a man she'd met online. Their marriage lasted for 3 years, culminating in an amicable divorce. Remarkably, they remained close friends even after parting ways. It was through this post-marital friendship that Teresa met Teresa Sievers, an acupuncturist, and subsequently Stacy's brother Mark, a registered nurse. Sparks flew, and by the end of 2003, Teresa announced her pregnancy. Shortly thereafter, the couple married. Within 6 months, they welcomed their first daughter. They established a home in Bonita Springs, and in 2007, their family expanded with the arrival of their second daughter. By all accounts, Mark and Teresa's marriage was a resounding success. His mother even declared that if she had to describe an ideal couple, it would be them. Everyone saw them happily involved in their daughter's activities. Mark had even joined Teresa at the medical center, where she held an administrative position. They spent much time together, always professing their happiness. But behind closed doors, a different reality unfolded. Mark and Teresa argued daily, their marriage seemingly crumbling with each passing day. Only their daughters witnessed these conflicts. Eventually, they explored the world of swinging, seeking to reignite a spark. It turned out that Mark's desire for intimacy was far stronger than Teresa's, and she looked for something to revive the flame, thinking it might benefit their relationship. Mark agreed, and for several months they attended such gatherings. This brings us to June of 2015, when the family decided to vacation in Connecticut. On Sunday, June 28th, Teresa flew home alone, landing at Southwest International Airport in Florida. Her commitment to her patients came first, and she needed to return to her duties on Monday, June 29th. Mark and their daughters remained in Connecticut to enjoy a few more days of vacation. However, on that Monday, Teresa was absent from the clinic. Staff members tried to reach her by phone, but their calls and messages went unanswered. Teresa's most trusted nurse contacted Mark to inform him of his wife's absence and their inability to reach her. Mark said he would call her and then reported that he also couldn't get in touch. The nurse suggested he go to the house to check on her, but he refused. Instead, Mark enlisted the help of a neighbor. He asked him to go to the house, knock on the door, and see if Teresa was all right. The neighbor agreed and knocked, receiving no response. He then decided to enter through the back. The door was unlocked and one of the family's two dogs ran out. The neighbor entered the house calling out for Teresa. He walked into the kitchen and discovered a gruesome scene. Teresa lay in a pool of blood, her head severely battered, a bloodied hammer beside her. The neighbor, a doctor himself, approached her and checked for vital signs. She was already dead. He immediately called emergency services. 911, what's your emergency? The operator asked. I'm at a friend's house. He's out of town and asked me to check on his wife. She's dead on the floor. She came home last night, her husband is in Connecticut, and she was supposed to be at work at 9 a.m., but didn't show up, so her husband called and asked me to check on her. There's a hammer next to her body, and she's been hit with it. Following a neighbor's call, the police swiftly arrived at the residence. Paramedics confirmed Teresa's death. The woman's body was taken for examination. The forensic analysis revealed 17 blows to the head, likely inflicted with a hammer. There were no other apparent injuries nor any signs of sexual assault. The sheer number of blows initially suggested a personal motive, but officers considered other possibilities. Upon examining the scene, they discovered a forced entry. A crowbar, later found in the backyard, had been used to break the front door. This led officers to suspect a burglary gone wrong, with Teresa surprising the intruders. However, nothing of significant value appeared to be missing. A family safe containing approximately $40,000 in cash remained untouched. The couple's jewelry and other valuables were also left untouched. Even Teresa's wallet was present, with only one credit card missing. This anomaly dismissed the robbery theory. The husband was quickly ruled out as a suspect, as he was vacationing in Connecticut with his daughters at the time of the murder. For the first few weeks, detectives had few leads, leaving them fearing the case might go cold. However, an anonymous tip implicated two men residing in Missouri. The tip led them to 51-year-old Curtis Wayne Wright, a computer technician with a striking resemblance to Mark, a lifelong friend who even attended Teresa's funeral. The second man was 29-year-old Jimmy Ray Rogers, nicknamed Jimmy Hammer. Curtis and Jimmy met in prison. Curtis was serving time for drug possession, and Jimmy for weapons charges. Tracing Curtis's movements after the incident, investigators discovered he had rented a silver Hyundai, which he never returned. The authorities located the vehicle parked near Jimmy's trailer. A search warrant was issued for Curtis's trailer. When authorities checked the car's GPS, it was traced heading to the Sievers home in Florida. By tracking the GPS points, investigators pieced together the route taken by the car. On the morning of June 27th, Curtis and Jimmy were driving from Missouri to Bonita Springs, Florida. The presence together was confirmed through supermarket surveillance footage that captured them purchasing trash bags, wet wipes, rags, a lockpicking kit, and cleaning supplies. Subsequently, witnesses reported seeing the two at a local beach, after which they proceeded to Teresa's home. They remained there until the early hours of Monday before. According to the car's GPS, they returned to Missouri. The men were apprehended and brought in for questioning, but vehemently denied any involvement. Both Curtis and Jimmy had extensive criminal records, making them well-versed in interrogation techniques and traps, so getting them to talk proved difficult. Jimmy especially refused to admit any wrongdoing. Investigators decided to pressure him, informing him of his girlfriend's statements during her simultaneous interrogation. She confessed that her boyfriend had indeed murdered Teresa with Curtis, and that she even helped Jimmy dispose of bloodstained clothing. She led the police to the locations, and they recovered several pieces of clothing covered in blood. Having gained Jimmy's girlfriend's acknowledgement, Curtis finally decided to speak. Jimmy, however, maintained his innocence. Curtis confessed that he and Jimmy were responsible for Teresa's death. When questioned about this unexpected confession, Curtis revealed that Mark, Teresa's husband and his friend, had asked them to do it, a part of Mark's scheme to eliminate his wife, knowing he wouldn't be suspected due to his distance. But at that point, the police had enough to start interrogating him. According to Curtis, Mark was distraught over Teresa's intention to divorce him and take their daughters. He feared never seeing his daughters again due to his lack of funds for a custody battle and worried about their safety. He claimed he had tried everything to save their marriage but failed. Mark also confided in Curtis that their financial situation was dire and that they were on the verge of bankruptcy. The only solution, according to Mark, was Teresa's death, as she had life insurance policies worth $4.5 million. He then inquired if Curtis had friends who could assist him, offering $100,000 for the deed. Curtis offered to do it himself. At that time, the police only had Curtis's confession. No physical evidence linked Mark directly to his wife's murder. It was Curtis's word against Mark's, who portrayed himself as a grieving husband. From the beginning, the police were suspicious. His grief seemed exaggerated, as if he were acting to convince others of his sorrow. They delved deeper into the couple's relationship, discovering multiple life insurance policies on Teresa. They seized Mark's phone and found a digital diary documenting the failing marriage, Teresa's consideration of divorce, his feeling of inadequacy, and feeling like a leech. Mark repeatedly referred to himself as a leech, as Teresa's income was the primary source of household money. Further investigation revealed that Mark and Curtis used burner phones to conceal their communication. Examining Mark's phone, officers noted the absence of condolence messages from Curtis, a lifelong acquaintance who attended the funeral. Additionally, Mark's mother testified that she had visited their home the day before the murder to check on things and feed the dogs, and at Mark's request, she didn't activate the alarm system when she left. Prosecutors stated that they had over 100 pieces of evidence against Mark. In February of 2016, Mark was arrested and charged with orchestrating his wife's murder. The couple's 2 daughters were placed with Teresa's family, despite Mark's wishes for his mother to care for them. The court believed it was in the girls' best interest to live with the victim's family. Mark attempted to turn his daughters against Teresa's family from prison, but failed. The trials of the 3 accused began in 2019. The judge ruled that each would be tried separately, primarily because Curtis was going to testify against both Jimmy and Mark in exchange for a lighter sentence. Jimmy Ray Rogers was tried first, with Curtis as the key witness. He recounted that when they arrived at the house, he wasn't sure how they would kill Teresa. They had to do it that day because they wouldn't have another chance. Inside, they looked for a weapon, but Teresa came home earlier than expected. They hid, and while they were looking for a place to hide, Curtis said he found a hammer. He grabbed it, planning to strike her from behind while she was in the kitchen. But as they approached, he tripped over a dog bowl, alerting Teresa. She turned and saw the 2 men in her house. Curtis claimed he panicked and struck Teresa on the head, knocking her unconscious. He hit her again. After that, Jimmy took the hammer and started hitting Teresa multiple times until he killed her. According to Curtis, when a neighbor entered the scene and saw Teresa in the kitchen, they were still inside the house and escaped before the police arrived. Jimmy's defense argued that Curtis was the actual killer and that their client never struck Teresa with the hammer. They emphasized Jimmy's abusive childhood in an attempt to avoid the maximum penalty. Nevertheless, the jury found Jimmy Ray Rogers guilty of second-degree murder. The defense argued that Curtis was an unreliable witness, but it did not change the jury's mind, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Mark was next, with Curtis again serving as the primary witness. He reiterated his previous testimony, stating that Mark conceived the plan and orchestrated everything. Additional evidence and investigative findings were presented. Mark never testified. His lawyer argued that Curtis was solely responsible for Teresa's death, an unreliable witness due to his past, and was lying to save himself. After closing arguments and the presentation of evidence, the jury deliberated for 4 hours and reached a unanimous verdict. Mark was found guilty of first-degree murder. The jury recommended the maximum penalty. The judge accepted the recommendation, and Mark was sentenced to death. The 51-year-old man was given the opportunity to deliver a prepared statement in which he continued to maintain his innocence. The statement read as follows. Mark's voice trembled as he pleaded with the court, "My daughters have tragically lost their mother, and now they stand to lose their father as well. I implore you to spare my life, to prevent further anguish." His words echoed in the chamber after he read. Following this statement, his legal team announced their intention to appeal the sentence. Back in February of 2020, after a swift trial, Curtis was convicted and sentenced to 25 years in prison based on his confession. During the proceedings, he expressed deep remorse, stating he wished he could undo his actions and that his guilt would haunt him forever. He apologized to Teresa's family. After the trial concluded, Mark's defense filed a motion for a new trial, arguing that the verdict was unsupported by the evidence and citing other grounds. However, the judge denied the request. Mark is currently on death row in a Florida state prison.